everybody, I'm Kevin. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Hey everybody, it's Kevin and welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad everybody's here. Today I want to tell you guys a little bit about one of my favorite things to grow in my garden. And I know I said hellebores were my favorite last time, but what can I say? I have a lot of favorites. But daffodils are definitely at the top of my list. I mean, there's really nothing happier or cheerier or funner than a daffodil. We're all familiar with the classic yellow daffodil. It signals spring and Easter and the rebirth of spring that comes along. So we're always happy to see the daffodil come up. It kind of gives us hope of what's to come. I've been planting daffodils for so long in my garden. I've got them everywhere. They grow in zones 3 through 8. They do need a cold season, so it will trigger their blooming. So they don't do well in tropical areas or places that are really wet and humid a lot. But they do really well here in Tennessee, and most parts of the United States can grow daffodils, a lot of them. They originally come from the peninsula of Spain and Portugal, but we've been growing them here in our gardens for a long, long time. They've been hybridized, and there's so many different varieties and shapes and forms and colors you can get now. These are just your classic daffodil that you'll see in a lot of the box stores and grocery stores and things in the fall. A lot of these are the King Alfred or the Dutch Master. Those are two classic yellow daffodils. But they come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. I started out just doing the yellow, but over time I've gotten interested in collecting a lot of different shapes and forms. So the thing to know about daffodils is you want to plant them in the fall. That's when you'll see them in your box stores and nurseries and things and online. Usually starting October through Christmas. I've even planted them as late as in January. I don't recommend that. But if you have them in January and you haven't planted them, don't let that stop you. It's better just to get them in the ground. They may bloom a little off the first year, but it's really not a problem. The main thing you want to remember is to plant the bulb about, the bulbs are usually about something like 3 inches, 2 or 3 inches, and you want to plant them 6 to 8 inches deep. Wonderful thing about a daffodil is even if you don't plant it deep enough or too deep, over time it will reposition itself to where it wants to be and adjust itself. So it'll help you out a little bit there. But generally speaking, 6 to 8 inches is good. They're going to start to come up in the spring. Well, really, right after Christmas, I start to see the little tips coming up in my gardens, and they'll grow up through the end of February, and some of my miniature varieties will then start blooming. But most of the larger daffodils are going to bloom all during the month of March, at least here in Middle Tennessee. If you're up north, it may be a little bit later. You'll just have to see what your season's like. But they're going to come up and they're going to bloom. They're going to bloom usually for a couple of weeks. And then the thing to remember that really is the only catch about growing daffodils is you have to make sure that the foliage that grows up after they bloom stays erect and growing for about 6 to 8 weeks. And then after that time, the foliage is going to start to die back in yellow, and then you can mow it down or mulch it or cut it off or whatever. But it's very imperative that you let that greening grow out, because what it's doing is it's photosynthesizing. So it's sending that energy back down into the bulb so that it can have the energy to give you the flowers next year. Now, if you do mow them down, what will happen is they'll probably come back next year, but you'll have next to no blooms, if any at all. And it'll take a couple years to build back up and start to cycle again and bloom. So it's very imperative that you put them in areas where your lawn people or whoever's doing your lawn is not going to mow them down. I don't really have mine out in the grass in many areas because of that. I have them in beds and creeks and on the edge of my forest and stuff, so you can put them a lot of places. They say they need 6 to 8 hours of full sun a day, but I have mine planted in shady areas here because our deciduous trees do not have their leaves, of course, in January, February, March when they're growing. So you can put them in woodland areas and they'll be just fine. I have mine in areas that are really dark shade during normal times, but in the spring it's full sun because all the trees are still dormant. And that's really all you have to remember. I don't really fertilize mine. Most people don't. I suppose you maybe could, but it's not imperative. They will naturalize over time, which means one bulb planted over a couple years will have a couple babies next to it, and those will grow up and have a couple babies. So over time, you'll have lots and lots of daffodils. In fact, it's kind of great because a lot of the areas here in Tennessee and really around the country, you can see where there were old farmsteads where they planted daffodils, and now the homesteads are long gone, but there are literally acreages of daffodils in areas where the old farmsteads were. And a lot of them even wash down into the bar ditches, and you'll see them bloom in the spring here. It's kind of amazing. But get a daffodil. I know you won't regret it, because once you get them started, there's really nothing to it. I just want to leave you guys with some footage of some of the daffodils I've grown here on my property. Here in my Asian garden, I have lots and lots of different daffodils. One of the main varieties here is a tete-a-tete variety, which is a miniature daffodil that I love. I think it looks so great with all my Japanese lanterns. It's one of my favorite places to use my daffodils. I've literally planted hundreds over the years, and they've multiplied to form really thick masses, which I love. That's one of the wonderful things about daffodils. Over time, they will thicken and give you more and more blooms. I've also planted them on the edge of my forest here, where they pair very well with hellebores. Hellebores make a great companion plant because they bloom at the same time as daffodils in early spring. Here you can see a great spanning view of all the daffodils in bloom in my Asian garden. And as always, Roxy's here to help me. She's my faithful companion and helper in the garden. Here you can see that I have forsythia growing alongside with daffodils. They make great companion plants because forsythia blooms at the same time, and they have both have that vibrant yellow color that I love so much in spring. You can see here that I've planted these daffodils on the edge of the yard, on the edge of a canyon going down into my creek. This is the first year that they've bloomed, and I was so excited to see them. They will thicken up over the years as they start to naturalize and have baby bulbs and produce many, many blooms in the future to enjoy. Daffodils do really great on the edges of forest. Here's one of my favorite varieties, a variety called Slim Whitman. It's a very old variety that's been around for years and years. As you can see, it's different from a lot of different varieties because it has a white background and a huge ruffled cup in the center that starts out a bright yellow and fades to a muted white and yellow fringe. I love to plant daffodils on the creek where they look so natural. I've been planting these for years, and they're starting to have wonderful big clumps that I enjoy every spring. They really liven up my creek, and I can't wait each year till they start to blossom. Hey everybody, I'm at Cheekwood today. I'm excited because we're going to go to the Southeastern Daffodil Show. It's a really great opportunity to come and see just how many different varieties there are of daffodils, because they are endless. It's astonishing how many different varieties there are, and a lot of them are on display here, so I thought it'd be a great opportunity to come and see just exactly what some of your choices could be. All right, let's see what they have. This year I had a really great time at the Daffodil Show. I thought it'd be fun to bring you along and show you just how many different varieties of daffodils there are. And this is just a small sampling. But as you can see, there are so many different varieties to choose from. Some are solid yellows with different shades of yellow, and some are white backgrounds with cups that are yellows and oranges and reds and all different shapes thereof. There are even a few varieties that have pink cups or bright orange cups. Some are large and double, while others are small and single in shape. These are a few of the varieties that actually seem to bloom in small corsages with multiple blooms on each stalk, where some daffodils only bloom with a single blossom per stem. But you can see there is such a variety, and this is why I love daffodils so much. So you guys need to go out and find a daffodil that suits your taste in your garden. All right, everybody. Well, that's about all I have to share with you guys today on daffodils. If you don't already have them in your yard, I highly recommend that you plan ahead, and in the fall you get some so you can enjoy them for years to come. I promise you won't be sorry. Now, I've been thinking about my next video. I know we've been in the garden these first 2 or 3 videos, so I'm going to take you in the kitchen next and share one of my favorite recipes. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe so you can come along with me for my next adventure for Life with Kevin, TN. I'll see you in the next video, everybody. Bye-bye.